Today, introductions. Well, my name's Adam. Hopefully you know me. CEO and founder of Inflectra. Was one of the original creators of Spira back in the day. And today I'm going to be talking about some of the new and exciting features we've released in the last few versions of version 7. So we're covering version 7.11, 7.10, 7.9, I think it's 7.8, and I believe as far back as even 7.7. So we've combined several of those releases into today's webinar. And we'll be focusing on the following main areas. So first of all, we'll be talking about, I'll do a quick recap of the functionality we've added around capabilities and milestones. That's part of our program management or scaled agile functionality. I'll be talking about some of the specific enhancements around that in the latest versions, including the new dashboard widgets around capabilities, the new additional program widgets. I'll do a review of the new reporting functionality that we have for programs, which is very exciting. And then looking at the product level, we have the new meta tags. We've been looking for this feature for many, many years. Any of you who've been to any of my in-person roundtables or meetups, we've talked about tags for a while. The other thing we talked about was mentions. That was released a few months ago, and we've just released the tagging functionality. It's on some of the artifacts, and we will be rolling it out to the rest of the artifacts. So that's really exciting. We'll also be looking at some of the new reporting, as I mentioned, at the program level. And also we have refreshed the task board and the planning board. And we're going to be refreshing the incident board and the requirements board in the next version, which is 7.12. And we're also, in the future releases, we'll be refreshing the program boards. So what I'll be showing you on the planning board and task boards, the new user interface, will be representative of how it's going to look across the rest of the application. And then I'm also going to show you our ChatGPT OpenAI integration as well, which is something we released a few months ago. And we're also going to be expanding that in the coming year with additional functionality. We're doing a lot of work on R&D on AI, both on Spira and Rapise. We're going to have a webinar on that topic specifically about what does the functionality going to look like in 2024 for AI, and what do we see as the wider trends in AI. So do watch out for that webinar. But I'll be showing you what the current functionality looks like today. And so with that, let's exit PowerPoint and go into the live application. I will be taking questions. While we're going into the application, please write down your questions in the Q&A box, and I will get to those at the end. Very good. Okay, there's lots of people all over the world. I'm seeing people from the US, France, Germany, Switzerland. Hello everyone who's attending today. I appreciate you making the time. So let's first talk about the new functionality and recap a little bit of the functionality on programs. So this is functionality that is only in Spira Plan. So if you are on a Spira Test and Spira Team, then you will need to consider upgrading to Spira Plan to get that functionality. So in Spira Plan, as you remember, we have 3 levels in the main navigation. We have portfolios, we have programs, and we have products. And basically, if you look at the screen, we'll see here, we've got a sample program, library information system, and that's in no portfolio. So if you don't create portfolios, a default one is created for you. And then if you scroll down here, we'll see other portfolios. Now, let's look at financial services. So this is one of the sample projects and sample programs. So if you want to play along at home, just sign up for a trial on the website, and you'll see exactly what I'm seeing here. In fact, this is actually a brand new trial I signed up for today, just for the webinar. So we have a nice clean system. And so if you go into, say, the customer experience program, that's one of the sample programs that we ship the product with. That program is made up of 2 different products, mobile banking and web portal. And so first of all, if you go into, let's say, a product, let's look at mobile banking. If you go in there, that particular product has requirements, which you'll see here. And if you go into web portal, you'll see other requirements, which is great. Now, as part of the scaled agile functionality, we can instead of that go into, and I'm just going to close some of these down so it saves time when I'm navigating, and you can do this as well. If I go into the customer experience program, you can now see we have functionality that brings these two different products together. So in the real world, let's imagine we are the CTO of a major bank or financial service institution, and I've got a web banking platform, which I may be a third-party ERP application that we're using or CRM application, or it could be something we built in-house. And we've got some kind of mobile app running on my phone. It's an Android app, iOS app. And although it provides a lot of the same functionality, it is different. There are different apps with different teams. And I want to be able to understand what is the functionality going to look like and what is the availability of that functionality across these different teams. And so there are requirements in the mobile banking world and there are requirements in the web portal team, both of which have to be satisfied for this new capability to come about. And so what we have, if you go into the capabilities section, capabilities are like requirements, but they're for programs, not for products. Just as a recap, we have seen this before in a previous webinar. You have a program level backlog, and in SpiraPlan, it is two levels. We have, for example, epics and features. So customer authentication could be a new epic capability, and there's two program capabilities under that. So let's look at authentication. You can connect with a username and a password, and there's a biometric option. Similarly, we may have a payment and transfer epic, and we have two different features under that. Customers can manage transfers to third parties. Customers can manage payments. And if I click on one of these features, these are program level features. What I really want to know is that if I'm going to do transfers to third parties, I want my user to be able to make a transfer on their mobile app. I want to also make a transfer on their web app. And ideally, I want to roll these out at the same time so I can announce as part of our Q1 objectives as a bank, we have this new capability first in the industry. And so what you can do is go to the requirements tab and you can see the customer can manage transfers. It's 2/3 done, so we're not quite done. So I want to get it done by the end of Q1. Well, how far along are we? Well, guess what? On the mobile banking side, I'm 50% done. One of my requirements is done. One of them is still planned, not started yet. And the other one, and the mobile banking, we've actually done it completely. So web banking, we've done it completely. So web banking is completely ready to go. Mobile banking is 50% done. And so I could then decide, do I need to, worry about that or not? How do I worry about that? Well, let's go back then to the new feature we added, which was new dashboard items. So if I go back to my program dashboard, we have slightly changed the dashboard. Previously, we had a general view, a development view, and a testing view. We've now changed the names and reconfigured what's on the dashboards. And that's the reason for that is important, that some of our customers aren't yet using capabilities, or they're using Spira Team and Spira Test that don't have capabilities. And so if you go to the general view, that shows you what we had previously, which is I can look at the two different products, mobile banking and web banking, and I can see in terms of the schedule, how far ahead or behind am I? And it does that by looking at the dates of the releases in that particular product, those two particular products, and will determine what percentage time is left. It will also look at the requirements in those two different products, and you can see right here what percentage of my requirements are done. And therefore, it gives me a requirement-based view of those particular products and the requirements in them. And you can drill down and see the requirements test coverage, and you can see the other things. And that's all the same as before. That's not new. But we now have these capabilities, which are a higher level program artifact. And so we now have added this capability view where we're giving you very similar information, but we're now doing it. And all the metrics here are at that program capability level. So they're looking at the program backlog as opposed to the individual products. And one thing that's going to show you is, even though on the general view, we've got a certain percentage of complete of our requirements, when we go to capabilities, we'll see, actually, none of our capabilities are complete. And if we go to the capabilities view, we would see that's hopefully true. And we can see here, well, that's green. But that's completely done. These two are partially done. So you're thinking, well, why does it say none are complete? Well, because the status of the actual capability at the program level is what drives the status. So someone needs to come in here and change the status from done to completed. And once they do that, then it will actually update the capability. So that's the thing. It's taking the status. Similarly, if you go to capabilities, you may have these two done here, like improvement for managing transfers and managing payments. Well, these are almost done, but they're not fully done. And so the capability dashboard basically takes the view that until something is completely done, it's not done at all. And so it's a bit more pessimistic. And that way, it also means if you're doing things at a program level where you're going to have someone review the two different product teams' work and maybe do integration testing or do a final review before it goes out the door, you can track that and make sure that's accounted for. So it's a more pessimistic view. So what it's doing is looking at all of the capabilities in the different milestones and looking at that and tracking what's done. And if you go to the milestones, the other thing we can do is we can now see what's the progress against the dates. So if I've got a due date of at the end of Q1, I want to have this done, or the end of, in this case, these dates are in the past. But again, February 24th, if I move these dates forward, then it's the same thing. I can track all those program items against the dates that I'm setting. And in fact, if I wanted to say that my security and authentication isn't yet done, and reality is it's not going to get done in the past, let's say I want to get this done by the end of February, and hit save. It now changes to green because we've changed the end date. If I go to my interbank connectivity, which is my transfers, if I change the date of that to be the end of Q1, like that, I can hit save. If I now go back to my milestone view, we've now moved those dates out. And if I go back to my dashboard, that will update the dashboard as well. So if you notice, this percentage schedule progress has moved forward with more time. And so you can now plan at a program level, the milestones and the dates, and you can also track the capabilities against each of those at the high level. So the difference is on this program dashboard, we are working at a program level with program level artifacts as opposed to the general view where you're working with the roll-up of project level artifacts. And you will get different results because a capability is a program level item which has to be completed, and there's tasks and requirements to go with it. So it's similar information, but it's important. There are important differences. And this is obviously a very small project and program that only has a few capabilities and a few requirements. So when you start looking at thousands of requirements across multiple quarters and multiple releases, the ability to roll things up and be able to tackle things in a more program-centric view is really important. And just so the upshot would be, if you're using Spira plan and capabilities, you'll want to use this capability view. If on the other hand, you haven't used that functionality, you're still working basically with program level backlog, product level backlogs, instead, the general view will give you what you had in the previous version. So that's some of the new stuff we've added. And then all the QA metrics that used to be on the testing dashboard, we've moved those onto the quality dashboard. So these are the three different views now at the program level. And so again, depending on what your functionality is that you're using, which parts of the system, you may want to default to the capability view or the general view. But all the dashboards are customizable. You can go in here and you can modify the layout and add items to the dashboard as well. So just that's some of the major changes there. We've basically integrated the dashboards and the scaled agile functionality together. The next thing we've done at the program level for our Spira plan customers is we've also added reporting. So if you go to the program level menu, you go to the artifact menu, you'll see we have these things. These haven't changed since the last webinar we did. But if you go here, you'll notice there is now a reporting tab. And that's really great because it lets us do a couple of different things. It lets us add custom graphs. So if we have any graphs, I don't know if we have any, we haven't defined any yet, so we'll create one. But if we create a custom graph, then you can put it on this dashboard. The second thing you can do is you can run a report. So let's say I want to get a list of all my capabilities in my program. I can get a capability report, and I can choose the format I want. I'll just do HTML, and I want the change history, and I want the requirements. And you can filter by any of the standard fields. If there are any custom fields, you can filter by those as well. And then you hit create report, and now it's going to create a report. Okay, ran the report, and here you can see a sample report. It's going through all of the capabilities of my program. The priority is highlighted in red because they're high. You can see the associated requirements at the product level, and if you scroll down, you see medium. So it's a nice report that gives you all of the capabilities in my program and basically colorizes the different priorities, and it shows the individual project level requirements and what their status is. And it's basically what you were seeing on the view. If I went to this view, it's basically what you see here, but now it's in a report form. And the same thing is, now that we've added these program milestones, we can do the same thing here, and we can run a program milestone report. And I'll do detailed, but again, we can do summary, and we can do different formats, Excel, Word, all the usual formats that you know in the standard Spira reporting. And we're basically extending the reporting to the program level. And here will be an example of the milestone view. There's only 2 milestones, so it's not a lot of data, but you can see for each milestone, you can see which capabilities are in that milestone, and you can see the product level releases that roll up to it. So again, it's the same concept, takes the programmed items, and for each one, it shows you, for each of the product level items that are mapped to it, what is their current information. So it's a nice summary report that you could print out, get a generate PDF, and then hand it off to a client or just use it internally. So that's the other thing that we released, is this ability now to do reporting at the program level. Now, in terms of the reporting dashboard, what about graphs and charts? Now, for those who have played around with the custom reporting in Spira, if you go to the main administration menu over here and you go to edit graphs, you'll be familiar with this. However, and I'm just going to, in fact, I'm going to bring up in another tab so I don't, so I can keep my mother tab. I'm just going to put this one back. Okay, so let's go back here. So you can create graphs. These are both product level graphs. So if you sign up for a trial, we preload the system with a couple of standard or sample custom graphs, just in case you're wondering why these are here. And if you look at them, you go to edit one of them, you will notice that there's a workspace now, and that's new. Previously, we didn't track the workspace of the graph. So graphs would always go on the project level or product level reporting page. And that was fine because that's all we had. But now that we have a program reporting page and a product reporting page, when you create a custom graph, you now can tell it which one to use. And that's really important because you want it showing on the right one with the right information and the right permissions. And previously, the only workaround was if you wanted to show a program level report, like I want to see all the bugs open across my program, you had to create it for the program, and then you would then put it on the product report. And as long as that product was one that was in the program, it would kind of show up. And it was kind of a hack, and it was okay for a while. But this is much better now. We can now say when we create a custom graph, where do we actually want it? Do we want it at the program level or the product level? And in the future, we will probably be adding a portfolio level as well, maybe an enterprise level. And so that way, we can now create custom graphs at each level in our hierarchy in Spira and have the graph show up in the right place. So again, currently we do product and program only, but as you can imagine, this opens the world up for enterprise graphs across the entire system as well as portfolio ones, not yet available. So if I wanted to get a graph of all my capabilities and say the status, how would I do that? So let's say graph of capabilities by status. And I can choose program. And I can choose, let me choose the query, and I'll just choose capabilities. Product, and they're called product group. This is a historical artifact of Spira, where we sometimes call things project group. Project group is program, project is product. They're the old system names, and we didn't want to break reports that already existed. So that's why you'll see project group. Project group is really a program. It's just an anachronism to make sure we didn't break existing stuff. But capabilities, we just call capabilities. But we call project group milestones because there are portfolio milestones also, so to avoid confusion. So capabilities. So this is the standard graph that will generate a query for a project group item. And if I do display data grid, you'll see those are the 6 different capabilities that we have in our current program. And I want to show a graph of status against the name. So I'm going to do a little bit of SQL here, and if SQL is not your thing, it's not everyone's thing, but if it's not your thing, we do publish graphs and charts on the Inflectra support website. Go to support, go to knowledge base, choose the custom report section, and we are publishing a lot of custom graphs. If you have ideas for graphs, particularly the new program ones that we don't have, log a support ticket with us. We do have a team that does add these over time. We can't guarantee we'll do it right away, but we do put them into a backlog and we do create articles. Our support team is really good about that, creating graphs and charts. So if SQL is not your thing. But let me go ahead and do that. So what we'll do is we want to create a graph that is status. So that is name, and we'll call that as status name. And we want to include the count of the number in that status. So we'll just do the ID, count the IDs, and capability ID as count, capability count. Okay, like that. And we also want to group by the name, so we'll put that in as well. I think that's right. And we'll do display data grid. Hey, look at that, it worked. So that's how you do the query. There's only one of each status. Oh, by status. Yep. Oh, wait a second. I'm using the wrong field. Silly, like that. That's what I want. Is it just status name? I may have to go and do that again. Yeah. Okay. I need the status name, not the. I want the status name, not the name of the actual capability. If you ever muck up, it's really easy. Just choose it again and put it, and it will create a new query for you. So I'll just dump one in there, and then I'll just put it in there. So I'll do it again, and we'll do slate data grid. There we go. And I actually want the status name, which is not priority name, not milestone name. Where is status? Status is open status underscore name. Okay, so there we go. So put that in there. R.status name, like that, and that's what, and then put that there, like that, and we'll do data grid. There we go, and that's what I actually wanted, which is a count by status, not count by name, because obviously there's only one of each name typically. So I've got my graph, and I now can preview that, or I can just run it. I'll hit save. There we go. That's now created. And if you go into now the reporting page, I'll just refresh that. And we go to the plus button, custom graphs. It only shows the program graphs. It doesn't show the product graphs and vice versa. So that's correct. We'll put on the left side, hit add, hit close, refresh the page. And there we've got a nice little bar chart with the two statuses, display a data grid, get a CSV file, all the usual stuff is available. Or if you want to see it as a donut chart or a line chart, line chart doesn't make sense for this really. Donut chart or pie or a bar chart is the most logical. And there you go. There you go. We've now got a capability graph on our reports dashboard. So we've now basically extended the custom graphing capabilities to the program level in Spira, which is super cool. So just to clarify, we have shown the program capabilities, review of that. We've looked at the different dashboard widgets that we've added around capabilities and at the program level more generally. We've looked at the reporting functionality that we've added, including the ability to do filtering and sorting. And that concludes the program level functionality. So if you were a Spira test or Spira team customer and you were like, well, there's nothing here for me, don't worry, we've got you covered. The next things are for you. So let's look at what we've added at the product level. So if you go now back down to one of our samples, we'll look at core services and our portfolio, and we'll look at library information. Library information is one of our core samples and got various graphs and charts. But if we go into the requirements section, first of all, and we click on an item, one thing you'll notice actually throughout Spira that I didn't mention is the font is different. You may say, why is the font different? Is the font different? Well, the font is actually different, and we have chosen the font to be more readable, and it also displays more readability with accented characters. Previously, if you had a mixture of accented characters and ASCII characters, it just looked a bit weird with the formatting. So we've changed the base font in Spira from Canet to a different font that's a little bit more readable and great and better with other characters. So if you think the font has changed, you're not imagining things. We have changed the font. Okay, so let's talk about the tagging. So if I go to a requirement that we have, here we go. Let me find one that's open. I'll just open that one back up. Actually, it's got tasks, so I probably can't. No, let me find another one. If not, I'll just create a new one. Oh, all my tasks are completed, so they're not editable. So I'll create a new task, a new requirement. So ability to report on something. So here's my new requirement. If I hit save, you'll notice there's this new field here called tags. And so we've added this ability to create meta tags. Now, if you click on it, what it does is it looks at the product level and says, these are all the tags that are currently being used by other artifacts. Now, that's across the product. So these could be used by documents, which already had tags. It could be used by requirements, could be by tasks, by defects. And so the reason we do this is we don't want you creating duplicate tags that are very similar or synonymous. This is one of the problems with tagging is that if you, for example, do book management, I don't want to be typing books management. So if a tag exists, you can type, it will attempt to find matches. So if I wanted to tag it by performance, it would do that. So I can always do that. Now, if it's something that's completely different, let's say I don't want to use performance testing, I want to do load testing because they are different. I can do that as well and create a new tag. So unlike a custom field, which is fully prescribed, the tags gives you a really nice ability to have, if someone's already used this, I can use it. If they haven't, I can create a new one on the fly. It doesn't require going to my admin to say, custom field, wouldn't be nice to add that. And we've added this functionality now across, and it's got a little highlighting, we've added this across most of the artifacts, but not all of them yet. So if you go to test case and you're like, well, where's my tags? We haven't added them yet, don't worry, but they will be added. The next couple of releases, we're finishing this off, and we will have this across all the product level artifacts. And once you have that, of course, and you've added it to the item, you can then go to the requirements list page, and you could then show tags. Hopefully, or is it? Yep, I think it's current functionality. Yep. So there you go. So there's the tag. So you can go in here and search for load testing. And there's my requirement. So you can filter by any of the different tag fields. Similarly, if you go to documents which already had tags, we have redesigned the document tagging user interface so that it has that same nice interface that we saw for requirements. So just like we saw with requirements, it's not just a text field anymore. It's got this nice UI where you can pick a tag or type it in, depending on if it's a new tag or existing tag. So we've refactored the existing documents tagging system to use the new user interface. So we've added that across the system. Right now, I said it's across most of the artifacts, and it will be across all of them. And the plan is to add it to reporting. I don't think we've added it already. If we have, I'm pretty sure we haven't. No, we have not, but we will be adding it to reporting other parts of the system as well. Also, we're going to be talking about boards in a minute, and you might be wondering, have we added the tags to the boards? The answer is also not yet, but we are aware of that and we'll be working on it. So there are some things where we want to be adding it for future functionality. So just to recap, we have added tags. We've added them to most of the product level artifacts, and we've refactored the ones that were on documents. And we will be in future releases coming up this year, be adding the tags to the other ones we haven't added it to. And that's principally the testing and cases and test sets. We have not added tags there yet. Next thing is boards. So we have, as you know, been working on boards, and hopefully you're not bored of that. No pun intended, maybe a pun intended. If you go to planning board, previously we had a board that was considered a beta version. And when you went to planning board, you could enable it. We've done the opposite now. So when you go to Spira of a new installation or an existing one, this is the new board. We took a lot of feedback from our customers and users who gave us feedback on the beta version. And this is now the final version. And we have therefore now made this the default view. And if you go to this orange arrow that you can see, you can go back to the old one, looks like this. Oh my God. But the default is the new one. And if you go to the task board, that's the new one. And there is no revert option, I believe. Oh, no, there isn't. Sorry, there is. No, the legacy one is there too. So the task board and the requirements board both default to the new view. And there's an option in both to go back to the legacy view. We will be getting rid of the legacy views in the near future. So please, it's a good time to train your teams and get them acclimated to the new views because they will be the default. They are the default, but they will become the only views. And then the other things we are working on that are not yet released will be if you go to incidents and you go to the boards, those are still the old views. Those will be replaced by the new board. Same thing when you go to requirements. If you choose requirements and you go to the board view right here, that is also going to be switched to the new one, but isn't yet. So in the future, the next release or so, those are going to be switching over as well. And when we talk about programs, if you go back to the program that we were looking at, that customer experience program, we do have a planning board there that has also not been switched over yet. That's going to also be handled. So during the year, we will be removing the old legacy views, and we'll be moving all of the other boards, the incident board, the requirements board, and the program boards, all over to the new user interface. So by the end of the year, all the old boards will be gone in the application. So just to be aware of that. Now, what do the new boards look like? We have had the beta versions previewed in a previous webinar, but I do think it's worth showing some of the functionality in the final version. So if we go back now to a product level, so I'll just go back to my product level. Let's go to planning board. This is how the board looks. So the first thing you'll notice is that we've hidden a lot of the options that were previously at the top of the board. So now when you click on these three cog icons, it lets you configure the board. And this is the primary thing you'll be doing. And that will be, am I looking at a product backlog? Those are the items, the story cards that are not yet part of a release. They're basically unplanned. That's our backlog. That's our product backlog. We then have what's in the release. That's our release backlog. And then what's in our individual sprints. That's our sprint backlog. With the new boards, you can now choose the columns, and you can choose the rows, and you can choose whether to include unassigned items or not. And that's useful because they will clutter up the board. But when you're moving unassigned items to a release or to a person, you want to see the unassigned items because that's what you're doing. Other times when you want to move things between people or between sprints or releases, they will clog up the board somewhat. So we have the option to hide them or show them. Also, one thing we changed is before there was the option to group by a team or group by certain things, and you may wonder where's that gone. Well, the group by only worked when you had certain rows selected. So now, depending on the row you've selected, you will get different group by options. So if you group by something that if you have a row selected, sorry, by something that can be grouped by, you will see the option. So what does that mean? Well, let's first of all look. We're now currently looking at the backlog of items that are not planned by status, and we have no rows selected. So we could change it from by status. We could change the rows to by priority. So now we've got two dimensions. We've got status along the top. We've got priorities along the bottom. You can expand those, and if anything's got a priority, it will appear. So these are medium, and these I think are low, and there's nothing in the critical or the high. And we could drag these items between the different statuses or between the different priorities, which is great. So we could decide that this is actually not a medium, this is a high priority. We'll drag that up there. Now it's high. We can expand that and say, well, this is actually critical. Simple as that. And if you want to click on an item, you can expand it out to see the full screen. That shows you all the fields. One thing we did change in the new boards is we moved the save and cancel buttons to the top, because if you've got a lot of custom fields, it meant you had to scroll down to save, and that was annoying. And so we've made that usability improvement. Also, one thing that someone had mentioned, if you go to the full screen view and you control click on it, it brings up the full screen item. Previously, we were defaulting to the task view, and we had feedback that if a user has chosen a specific page they want to go to, we should use that remembrance, that setting, and not default to a view. And so we changed it to use whatever the user has selected as their view. So we used that feedback as well. So thanks for that feedback. If you want to change what's in the columns, that's easy enough. You go here, you can change the columns from status to, let's say, I wouldn't want to do priority because it's the same as what the rows are, but I could do it by component like that, or I could do it the other way around. Maybe I want to make the rows by nothing, and I want to do the columns by say priority, and the rows by component or by type. So you can always mix things around and see these are my components now, and you can see what's by priority. So you can change the board X and Y as you feel. The other thing you can do, so it's a lot more flexible than the old boards. We also have these indicators at the top will tell you how many items are in each segment. So we got 4 in administration, and 1 critical, 1 high, 1 medium, and 1 low. And if you want to see unassigned items, you can then show those as well, and they will now appear. And of course, the other thing is, what about the cars themselves? Well, I'm only seeing the name and the type. What about the status? What about other information? So the second option here, this card icon, that lets you change what's displayed. So if I want to see the full description, not just the short text, the title, I can do that. If I want to see the status, I can show that. Test coverage, task progress, test cases, tasks, positions, all of that. Incidents, if the incidents will make sense. You can show all of those. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to see what's on the particular board that you're interested in. And if you go to rows, you can see here the different rows. Now, let's talk about the other options. This is the product backlog. These are the unplanned items. What about if I want to look at a release and what's in a release? That's easy enough. I go here and I say release backlog. And by default, it's going to show it to me for all releases, but I can choose a release. So by all releases, it's going to show me everything that's planned for any active release. And I don't know if there's a few things here. So you can see here, we've got priority along the top, and we've got component along the side. And I can decide that might be useful for me, or maybe I decide actually I'd much rather have status as a column to see the progress of these things. And actually, I want priority along the rows. So I can see what's important and is it being done or not. And you can see here, nothing much. There's 10 things there. And hi, we've got some there. So there you go. You can see the different items in each of the categories. And also, again, you could show unassigned items or not. Now, the other thing to mention is, what about grouping? So how do I group things? Well, to group things, you actually want to choose a row that is groupable. So if I was to do it by person, So I want to see all the different people, and I can see that Fred's got some items in different statuses, and there's more things if you look along here in case you're wondering why there's so many. So there's everything that Fred is working on right here, and there's everything that Joe's working on right here. I want to group that by team. So now, because I've chosen person, the group by option is now available. It's only available for the cases where it makes sense to group by something. So if I choose by team, we've now got two levels of grouping. We've got the team and the person. And this is really nice when you've got a lot of people on a particular product. You don't have to go find that massive list of people is a bit unmanageable. I just want to look at the QA team. So I can now look at the QA team here and here, and I can see what's in the board. So that's really nice. Now, the other thing is you look at this and go, well, why is everything to the right? Well, because I'm only using certain statuses on my board, but I've got all these other statuses here in the workflow. And that's great from the workflow because I want to be able to track the workflow, but it makes the board a bit of a pain. So the other thing we added in the new boards is the ability to change which statuses appear in the boards. So and which the order is. So if I go here to status, and this is an admin feature, so it will affect all products using that template. I can now say, well, what do I actually want? Well, I want new things should be on the board. Things that are maybe planned, I want to see on the board. Then I want to see things that are in progress, developed and tested and completed, maybe. So let's do those. And I want them in this order. So that with the workflow is different, I can still specify the order, hit save. Now if I refresh the board, that's much better now. I can see everything. Requested, planned, in progress, developed, tested. It all fits nicely on my screen. I guess it's completed too. So I might decide that really I don't need planned and in progress and requested. Because I'm looking at a release backlog, maybe I don't need both of those. But that's up to you. But you can customize what's on the board to see what makes sense for you. And you can now see by person, by team. And that's some of the functionality we added in the boards. As we went from the beta version to the final version, we did incorporate your feedback around that. Previously, we didn't have that grouping by teams be available for only when it made sense. So you had a lot of overlapping UI where you'd have things grouped by themselves. We also just tried to make it just much easier to use in general. And small things like when you click on a requirement, going to the user's last view rather than defaulting to tasks. That was, again, feedback we got. We've also got the test case indicators and task case indicators. Like we had on the old boards, the coverage graph shows you the percentage of tests that cover that requirement. The task progress shows you, do you have tasks, subtasks, are they done? Are they ahead of schedule, behind schedule? And the circles show you the individual task names and numbers. And so you can see how far along are they and also which particular ones have passed or which ones have failed, which tasks are late, which tasks are done. So it can all be done from the board. And when you want more information, you can click on it, edit it right here, or click on this option to go to full screen. Or if you want to go straight to full screen, you can skip out that intermediate step by just doing control click, and it opens up in a new tab directly to the requirement. So we've made that all really easy and super simple, incorporating your feedback. And the task board does work the same way. If you go to tasks, it broadly goes the same way. I won't spend as much time because it is very similar. You've got the ability to see the different rows and columns, but now it's by task. You can do all releases, or specific release or specific sprint, and you can show different things on the boards and as well. So on the cards as well. So again, very similar user interface, works the same way. I won't spend as much time on that. So that's the functionality around the boards. Just to reiterate, planning board and task board have the new user interface, incidents, requirements, and program boards coming in the next releases. So that's the functionality. Now, the last thing to show is the OpenAI or ChatGPT integration. I actually have a different instance of Spira running which has that loaded in. So just to quickly show you how that works, it is a SpiraApp. So to use it, you have to go to the SpiraApps at the system level. And you go to your SpiraApps under system. And you will enable it. So ChatGPT, we call it. It's technically OpenAI, but people tend to know it as ChatGPT. So that's the name we've gone with on the icon. We will be adding other AI options as well. So if you're using Azure AI or potentially Bard or other models that are not part of OpenAI, we are looking to add those as well. But right now it is the OpenAI model through ChatGPT. You will put some settings in. So you will need to put an API key, which is hidden, and the organization name. This account will need to have billing and profile set up by OpenAI. And that's what you do at the system level. So we're using your account to do this. That way, any information that goes into the OpenAI system will be your OpenAI account, not Inflectra's. So we don't get any of your information. Just as a quick recap for those who are not familiar with the OpenAI system, ChatGPT, if you ever use the online interactive tool, it remembers what you're doing for training purposes, i.e. you're improving the model. If you use the OpenAI API, it doesn't actually use it for training. It does record your queries for 30 days and then they're destroyed, but it doesn't train the model from your AI queries. API queries, just to be clear about that. So you enable it at the system level, and then you go into whichever project you want to enable it on. I'll do it on library information system. And then you go at the project level, you go to the SpiraApp here, and your product admin will have to enable it for the product. So it's double opt-in. Opt-in for the system, opt-in for the product. And then at the product level, you would typically choose these values, and they can be different per product. The temperature, that's the how random or how deterministic is the output. The higher number will be more tolerance for imagination, imaginative creativity. The other thing is the model. GPT-3.5 Turbo is a good, fast model that's not too expensive. It doesn't use as many OpenAI tokens, but it's more limited. The GPT-4 model is much more powerful, but is much more expensive. So feel free to talk to your administrator about what they should be using. And typically most clients won't change these things. You can if you want. The next things that are further down, you could change this if you want, but you shouldn't need to. These are the prompts we're using. These are the system prompts. The system prompts are how we generate the data from the requirements. We have a prompt that generates test cases, tasks, risks, and BDD scenarios. We then have to take the results that come back from OpenAI, which are in natural text. They're not in JSON or a system format. And we parse those based on the format we've asked for. And in the prompt, we actually ask it for things in a specific format to make this easier. Now, things do come back, and AI has some inherent features such as laziness and hallucinations, and also unpredictability. So the results don't always come back exactly the same. So if for whatever reason we can't interpret the result back, we will warn you and we will tell you, run the query again. So in case you wonder why it may work one time and you hit the button and it does something different or the results aren't the same every time, that's the inherent nature of OpenAI. Its large language module is not 100% deterministic. The same query will not generate the exact same results every time, and that's by design. So just as a caveat. So once you've set this up, and again, most of the stuff you don't even change, you just turn it on. It's all there if you want to play around with it. All you do is now go into the system and you would basically now take a requirement that you already have and you would basically have the AI generate things from that. Now I have some I've done before already in case there's any issues, but let's just start with one we're going to create now. So my new requirement would be, let's try maybe shopping. You know, as a customer, I want to buy shoes. I want to, well, choose shoes, and put into an online shopping cart. That's my user story. Click on it. And if I go to ChatGPT, I can choose any of the 4 options: generate test cases, tasks, scenarios, or risks. So we'll try the first one, which is generate test cases. It's now sending a query to OpenAI. Just to warn you, this can take 10 seconds or so because it's the speed of the model. And once it's finished, we'll get data back. It will either tell us that we got successful results back, how many tokens we used, and creates them, or it will warn us that the data we got back could not be read. And it's a live query of the model. There we go. And it successfully created test cases, and it used 405 tokens. And that helps you understand the cost because when you look in your API profile, it will tell you in OpenAI, it will say, you're being billed X dollars a month, and that will buy you X thousands of tokens. And so we use 405 tokens for that query. So if we now go to test coverage, it's created 5 test cases. Verify that the customer cannot add an out-of-stock pair of shoes, can remove a pair of shoes, can add a pair of shoes, and so on. Update the quantity, and add multiple pairs of shoes. So the different test cases, they make sense. If I click on one, for each test case, what you are getting is the name of the test, and you are getting a simple single step right now, which tells you the expected result and the sample data. One thing we're looking at is potentially extending the functionality to have it generate multiple steps for a test case. And each of these tests would have a very similar idea. If we go back to the requirement, so these are my tests, great. Well, someone's got to build this app. So let's go ahead and do some development. So I'm going to generate some development tasks. These are tasks to build the shopping cart page. So we'll let it do that. Yep. Okay, did that. Go to tasks, and it created some tasks for us. Design and implement a UI for displaying a list of shoes. Conduct user acceptance testing to gather feedback. Implement a functionality to handle errors. Retrieve the shopping cart for returning customers. Proceed to the checkout from the shopping cart. Remove shoes and view selected shoes and the quantity in the cart. So these are the things you'd have to do. Again, not an exhaustive list, but a pretty good starting point. Let's worry about what are the risks. What are the risks with doing this? Are we going to have any problems building a shopping cart? What should I be worried about? And as a project manager, you're often worried about risks, so this is really handy. The risk functionality does require a Spira plan. The task functionality does require a Spira team. The test cases and BDD functionality does work with Spira test. So just to be clear, each artifact relies on you having access to that functionality in your version of Spira. So it created risks, go to associations, and they're my risks. I'll control click on one so you can see what it looks like. It identifies the risks. It doesn't attempt to rank them currently. That's something we could do in the future. We could have it rank a probability or an impact. So it says the online shopping cart may experience a technical glitch or downtime, resulting in poor user experience and loss of sales. That's reasonable. If we scroll down here, there's a bunch of other risks. Compatibility may not be compatible with all devices and browsers. Performance, data management, may struggle to handle large volume of customer data, security breaches, lack of demand. Maybe people don't buy shoes online. Zappos will probably disagree with that. But there you go, some sample risks. And let's go then. The last piece is I'm doing BDD and I want some scenarios. That's okay. Good testing there. That says that my requirement type does not support BDD steps, and they're absolutely right. I need to change my requirement to the right type. Hit save. So thank you, SpiraApp, for warning me. Hit save. Once it's finished, and now it's changed to the other icon. Go down here, you'll see we now do have scenarios. So now I'm in the right type. I can try it again, and it will now generate my BDD scenarios for me. And that will be the last thing I'm going to be showing today. So if you want to start putting in your questions, I'm happy to go through any of those as well. And that did create scenarios. And there we go. Given the customers on the shoe store website, when the customer selects a pair of shoes, the shoes should be added to the shopping cart. Given the customer has added shoes to the shopping cart, when the customer removes shoes, then the selected shoes should be removed. When the customer selects multiple shoes, they should be added. When the customer updates the quantity, and given the customer has added shoes, when the customer continues shopping and selects more shoes, they should add more shoes to the existing shopping cart, not creating a new one. So those are some good scenarios that make sense. So that's a quick overview of the ChatGPT integration. This is just the current version. We are looking to improve and enhance the functionality that we have from an OpenAI standpoint. This is just the very first piece of functionality. So with that, let's hang over to the questions and the Q&A. Hold on one second. Wow, we've a lot. Yes. So first question. Thank you, Colin. I work for a large enterprise with many programs and projects, and I'm not allowed to create custom reports as they become available to all projects, not just mine. Do you have timescales for making it possible to produce custom reports at a project level rather than across the system? Not at the present time, I must confess. Reports are scoped from a display standpoint at a product or program level. Unfortunately, when you create the reports, the SQL that you're using is system wide, and from a security standpoint, that opens up all the data. So that's the reason why we haven't done that. We'd have to limit the SQLs in some fashion and make sure that someone doesn't try and get around that. So from a security standpoint, we have to make sure we can in some way prevent you doing it using SQL. And that's the reason we haven't done it. So I'm afraid I don't have a current time frame. Next one. When are we able to combine the reports with graphs so you can see pictures in the next page as well? So having a printed report that has a graph in it, that's a feature we do have in our backlog. It is quite complicated. I don't have a time frame at this moment for that, but it is something we are aware of. So good feature request. I don't have that, unfortunately. Okay, next. Rollout date for ChatGPT. It's rolled out already. It's live. So from an Inflectra standpoint, it's live. From a customer standpoint, that's up to you when your company will be okay with it. In terms of ChatGPT, currently we are integrating with the public OpenAI model, so it's openai.com or .org, and we are using that version. That we are going to be creating most likely a variant that will work on Azure AI. We have a customer of ours who shall remain nameless who's helping us beta test that potentially. And with that, it would run on a private instance of OpenAI running on your Azure instance. And the ability to have other URLs in there that are not going to OpenAI is something we're also looking at as well. So the ability to run it on a private model or a non-OpenAI hosted model is coming. We haven't got that available yet. But so in terms of using the OpenAI model itself, that's already available. So that's really up to you and your organization. But the functionality is available, but the ability to use private models is something we're looking into. ChatGPT is available in all versions of the tool, Spira test, team and plan, but the tasks and risk part requires team and plan. The risks part requires plan. Next one. Does the request to ChatGPT run off the top line? Yes. The ChatGPT integration currently does not use the description. It only uses the title. We are looking at potentially allowing you to use the detailed description as well. One thing to bear in mind for those who are using it, the more you put in the prompt, the more expensive it is. It uses more tokens. So if we do allow the ability to use the description, it will be an option you turn on or off to allow users that flexibility. Azure AI, when will that be supported? We're working on beta testing that right now with a customer. The hope is early this year, maybe end of Q1, early Q2. That's when we're thinking. Just depends on having some testing to make sure it works correctly. Can ChatGPT be used with a temporary GPT license? You have to have the paid version and you have to have the paid OpenAI API version. So if you have an OpenAI account, there is a subscription for ChatGPT, which is the interactive thing where you can type in, and there's a subscription for the API. They are different. We need the API subscription, not the ChatGPT subscription, and there is no free version of that, from my understanding. So ChatGPT has a free version and a paid version. OpenAI's API is only a paid version. So you need to have a billing profile set up. You can go online with a credit card. So temporary, yes, but it has to be a paid temporary. For ChatGPT, the tokens, do we have to buy them or can we get some free ones to play? Currently, we're not using an Inflectra OpenAI account, so you have to buy the tokens through your account. This again is the first version of this feature. If it's popular and people start using it a lot, one option we might eventually have is the ability to use an Inflectra OpenAI account, and then it will be part of your subscription. You could buy an add-on to Spira, like we have for Tara Vault or Rapise, where you can add features onto Spira. So we are looking at that down the road, and then you would pay us and buy X number of tokens, and then we will make those available. That's obviously more complex from a billing standpoint, but right now, all tokens are from your account, so you have to have those tokens. That's up to OpenAI, not us, as to whether you get any free ones. Typically, you don't get any free ones. Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate it. Is there any potential to discuss training needs around Spira tests with our existing installation? Yes, not on this webinar, but if you are interested in training for Spira, we have both. First of all, I'll make a shout out for Inflectra Campus. So if you go to our website, you go to products, and you go to training. I'm just going to close my windows. Go to training, go to Inflectra Campus. We have a very large amount of training materials now available for free on campus. So feel free to go to Inflectra Campus. There is different training for our different projects. And in here, we have both free and paid options. So that's definitely me. Hello, wearing the same shirt. So if you are interested in training, we do have the free option of Inflectra Campus. Otherwise, just go to our website and choose the option to contact us right here. And it will go put in your geography, and it will automatically route it to one of our account managers, and they will reach out to you and can prepare a quote for live training. And live training will typically be done with one of our partners, and they can come either on site or remote, really up to you what you want. But there are training options. The free stuff is all online, both our website, YouTube, and Inflectra Campus. And also, if you want something that's more custom to your needs, we do have live training options as well, both on site and remote. An entire project from a screenshot. So you could draw in Spira a screen, like a mock-up, and say, create my requirements and scenarios and tests. And it can do that. Right now, it gives you a bunch of text, but we could parse that text and we could generate the whole project for you. So yes, we are looking at doing more things around AI. AI is evolving weekly. I'm going to be putting together a blog, which is going on our website based on some R&D from our team, which will summarize some of these things. But yes, what you're seeing today on ChatGPT is literally scratching the surface. It's the first thing we've released, getting feedback. And since everyone's so excited about it, clearly there is interest in it. So we will be investing more in the coming year on that. We're also going to be trying to use the data we have in Spira for more traditional machine learning and deep learning that's not Gen AI, because this is just Gen AI. We are looking at using other models and things to look at the analytics we have in Spira, all the traceability data, the requirements, the test cases, the code commits, all the stuff that's in Spira natively, and how can we use that to generate better outcomes and give you predictive analytics as well as just the current state reports. So there's lots of stuff on the AI side coming. Again, we've just seen this, we've just scratched the surface today. That is, I think, the last question. We're at time. So I would like to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Hope it was really helpful. Oh, sorry, there was a question I missed. Are you going to open integration with other LLMs? Yes, the plan is to integrate with other LLMs as well. This is just the first one we got working. And things like, Barda's got Gemini. There's Amazon's got various things you can host. There's locally hosted ones. As long as it's API accessible to Spira, there's no reason we can't access it, basically. And so the intention is to open this up to other models too. So just to answer that question. So again, thanks very much for attending today. Hope it was helpful. We are doing a future webinar on AI and our plans wider than just this plugin. So please sign up for that webinar if you're interested. And if you are interested in more events, just go to company, go to events, and that's our events page. And you can see we've got a Jira webinar coming up about, moving to Spira from Jira because of the phase out of its non-cloud platform. There's one repeats coming up. This is the webinar, but there's other webinars coming up, and we do have one on AI, I believe, coming in the future as well. So again, look on the website, and you will see that. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the day.